Welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I know it's been a few weeks, but Divots and Pivots is back here every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. And as always, brought to you by Acorn Hills. Go down over to acornhillsco.com. Use discount code DIVPIV, that's DIVPIV, for 15% off on your order on all the latest fashion. And quick note on Acorn Hills, they're pushing this. They got this going now. Brand new thing, the Founders Club. You can sign up for their Founders Club. What that is, it's a quarterly subscription program where every quarter you're going to get a box in the mail with selections made hand selections by the founder, Nate. He's going to put in some clothes, some stickers, some ball markers, anything he can think of. He's going to include it in that box for you. So sign up for the Founders Club, get in on that quarterly subscription because you don't want to miss out on all the new stuff that they have dropping. So once again, that's DivPiv, DIVPIV 15 for 15% off. And as you may see, Keith Fleming is joining us here. And I don't know if you can hear. There's banging going on in my house right now.
I can't hear any banging.
It sounds like my wife's trying to get my attention, but I don't know what the hell's going on up there. But whatever. Keith Fleming is here with us. And big show announcement, guys. Here we go. Keith is going to be joining us going forward here as my new co-host here on Divots and Pivots. So welcome in, Keith, to the show. You've obviously are a familiar face, a welcomed and honored guest in the past, but I'm so happy to team up with you. And I'm so looking forward to what we got cooking. So real fast, for the viewers who aren't familiar with you, quickly, just who are you, where you're from, your quick something interesting about you, if you may.
Sure. I'm just a country boy who loves stats. I have been in the DFS space now for, I think, 5 years. Because me and Joe just hit our 5th year of the DFS football show on Fantasy Six Pack. I do both football and golf content for them. Very heavy data driven. But also just love golf. I worked in the golf business out of college. I was an assistant golf pro down in St. Simons Island, Georgia. I actually worked at Sea Island for about a year as well. Love to play the game, love talking about the game. And then I have an amazing wife that I'm getting ready to celebrate 10 years of marriage with in April, and 3 amazing rescue animal babies. My boy Nico, our Yorkie, our Snorky, Lola, and then a fat ass cat named Salem. So we got a crew.
A cat ain't worth having unless it's a fat ass cat.
He's a fat cat, man. But I look at it again. He's a rescue. If he wants to eat 50 times a day, I don't care. But,
right? Yeah. My aunt has a cat that is probably the length of. It has to be at least like 3 foot long. The longest, biggest cat I've ever seen.
That's the way Salem is.
Like I would say it's like a bobcat size, but they're so much fatter than a bobcat would be. So it's not that.
But they can still move. Like when Salem really wants to run, which again, it's rare, but like every once in a while chase the dogs or whatever. I'm like, damn, fat boy still, he still got a decent 40.
Fat boy. It's like the fat boy touchdown celebration in football. Daniel, thank you for always joining in. Love to see you here. And yes, the man, the myth, the legend, Keith Fleming is in the house. The network, as always, is excited to see it. But with all that said, the fun announcement, let's get into a little bit of news. And the power of AI is the reason why I never got a job in graphic design. So thank you, AI, for putting these transitions together for me. But anyways, I know we've missed 2 weeks of news, and yes, a lot happened in those 2 weeks. So I apologize being sick. And then last week, I honestly just wasn't able to come on. But we're going to do some of the kind of the quick hits for you. A lot of news revolving around Live as far as who's leaving Live, who's coming back to the PGA Tour, rules changes. So what I want to start off with is that obviously the big news in Live is that they finally get their official world golf ranking points. And what that looks like is the top 10 finishers in the Live event will get points towards their official world golf rankings. The points that they get will be the same as a an alternate event on the PGA Tour. So, for instance, when we get like the Bermuda Classic, when there's the week of is that the Players, I think, or something like that. Like the Myrtle Beach Classic, they're gonna get points according to those, not the main PGA Tour events, but they're getting points. And like I said, the top 10 guys will get that, which I think is fair. Live Golf also going to 72 holes, which is kind of a surprise. But at the same time, I felt like that was the only way they were going to get points. So it's not a surprise if they really wanted that. But the main news coming out of that for me is that guys like Jon Rahm aren't happy still. They're not. Jon Rahm comes out saying he's not happy that they're only getting the points that they're getting. And Bryson's coming out saying that he's not happy that they're going to 72 holes because that's not what I signed up for. And it feels like they're contradicting themselves, fighting themselves. And it just occurred to me, as if it didn't before, but it really solidified for me that it's just not going to make them happy. Because in the end, what they're doing is they wanted a new tour to change golf, but they're not going to be happy on that new tour unless it's exactly like the PGA Tour.
Andrew, let's be honest. They didn't want a new tour. That's such bullshit. They wanted the money, okay? And they wanted more control. Golfers, I say it all the time, we are the biggest whiny bunch of bitches, and it gets even more whiny the higher you are in the game. So, like, I'm not gonna lie, I whine about stuff all the time. Like, how good is your life if you get to go play golf on the weekends and stuff? And I'm whining about the weather, the pace of play, etc. And these guys, not only are they playing golf, they're getting paid large amounts of money to do it, and yet they're still never happy. They're always bitching about the pin placements, or the speed of the greens, or the pace of play. Again, it's just they never can be happy. Jon Rahm can kiss my ass. Like, seriously, he is so egotistical. He thought that him going to live, that was going to be the exclamation point, and the floodgates were going to open. How'd that work out for you, Rom? How many big names have gone since you went over there? None.
He's the last one, and he will be the last one.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it's the opposite, right? Where now you've got guys flooding back. And I like the live model of what they're doing now. I think this actually was the way to do it from the get-go, is get these young phenoms, like get these kids where it makes sense. Like I totally understand somebody that's 18, 19 years old, who knows what's going to happen in the professional game. And you're telling me you're going to give me 25, 50 million guaranteed?
Well, they're not giving that anymore. And that's what also
because I've heard some of these young kids are getting around 20 to 50 million is what they're giving them.
So if they actually are, I'd be surprised. I just know what I saw as far as the money goes. Like, the season-long winner prize has been cut in by 2/3.
Well, remember, most of the guys I think the prize money, though, if you got guaranteed money, you don't win any money until you have a clip. Your bill. Correct. No, seriously. So if you got, say, 75 million to go to live, you would have to win 75 million before they pay you another dime, right? Because they look at that's the guaranteed money. But it's, I'm glad they're going to 72 holes. I have no problem with live outside the fact that I think it's all bullshit. They change the game. No. Went there. You went there for money and greed, and to be able to do things your way. I understand Bryson saying this isn't what I signed up for. But it's also maybe Bryson, applying a little bit more pressure, because supposedly he's saying, hey, if you want me to stay another 4 years, how about $500 million?
Right.
And,
because Bryson doesn't need them anymore. Bryson's got his YouTube stuff that's now probably making him more money than he's would be making on tour if he was even just playing half the season.
Well, and he's got 4 years left of majors from winning the US Open 2 years ago. So I mean, he's set, and I'm more curious to see what happens with Patrick Reed's screw you, I'm going to earn it through the DP World Tour. You can't stop that. And that looks to be his goal. Is he's going to get an automatic, spot back in the PGA Tour. And then with Koepka, I want to know, what did he have to do? Because some reports are out, but we don't know everything. And if I was on the PGA Tour, man, I'd be pissed. Be like, I was told that if you leave, you can't come back. And already we're not even 5 years removed from that, and you're flip flopping. And I couldn't imagine being like Rory and these guys that were offered, even for them, life changing, like
Sure.
generational wealth, and they turned it down. So,
See, and
uh,
everybody made a choice, but at the same time, I feel like if you live in reality and you are one of the guys who stayed on the PGA Tour, you know the PGA Tour is also a business. And
yeah.
if there was an opportunity to get some of these big names back that you knew they were, hurting about losing, they were pissed about losing, you had to know that they were going to find a way to bring them back at some point. I get what you're saying about guys being upset, like, well, they left, got their money, now they get to come back. I'm being told, but like, for the argument to be like, well, you told them they can never come back, like that's weak. It's minds get
But
changed in business
they
all the
shouldn't have
time.
said that. Like, this
Sure,
is my
yeah,
problem with Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour. And I got
yeah,
sucked into it at first. I'll be the first to say I have egg on my face that I bought into the Saudi backed evil live
sure,
group. They were, using 9/11 and all this other stuff. And then the minute it leaked that they were trying to merge, I'm like, oh, so it was all bullshit. It was
right.
all about money, right?
It's all
Like, and
business. It's all
power.
power
And
and
yeah,
control.
exactly. And since that moment, I can't believe Jay Monahan has kept his job. If I was the PGA Tour, players, I would be just like, look, you want to, save all these bad feelings and stuff, get this dude out of here. Because he's just made a mess of the situation. And he's been lucky that Scotty Scheffler has ascended to
Yeah,
another level where they have a star. Rory, completed the grant. Like, they've had some great stories that have held it afoot. And now, what I said when it happened, the PGA Tour is always going to find new guys. Like, that's a great thing
of
about the
course.
game of golf, because you can get in there. And that's why I don't like live is, the smaller fields, and it feels like a boys club. And why I hated when they started doing the signature event stuff, because it eliminates avenues for players to rapidly move up the charts in golf. It makes it so much harder you to fall from, say, being in the signature event series, making the big money where you get the extra points and easier to keep that status, to the guys that just make a run and all of a sudden, Chris Goddard, right? That kind of comes out of nowhere. Next thing
Yep.
you know, he's fifth in the world. So,
Right.
but they fixed a lot of that stuff. And to the PGA Tour's credit, I'm really glad that, like, with Koepka coming back, any event he plays in, not only is he not taking a spot from somebody who could earn an in on Monday qualifying, et cetera, they're adding an extra additional spot. So
Yeah.
they at least get that. So they're kind of figuring this out. I'm just to the point where I just want to see these guys, if nothing else, in the majors where all
Right.
the best guys are playing. That's it.
Right, and we've been lucky enough so far this season, and the short season has been so far. We've gotten some fantastic golf already out the gate. You mentioned Chris Goddard. He already with his second. We'll get to his recap this weekend too, but with his second win this weekend of the season already, so that's huge. You can start to draw comparisons to what Ben Griffin did last year so far. We'll see if he stays on that track. But I want to get to Scotty in a little bit here too, because Scotty to me hit even a new level this week, and I'll explain that because you just mentioned his new level. But we had talked about Patrick Reed there for a second, and Patrick Reed is such another nail in the coffin for me as to how great the PGA Tour is, and in the month, so we'll say a month now that, or 3 weeks to a month, that Patrick Reed has made it clear he's coming back. He's applied for reinstatement to the PGA. He's going to work his way back, and he is a major winner, so he does fall into some of these guidelines that he is able to come back faster than, say, a Kevin Na or Hudson Swafford, who also applied for reinstatement. They're going to have a bit of a rougher time coming back.
Yep.
And we don't even have to go down the Wesley Bryan train right now. But Patrick Reed in the last 3 weeks, on, like you said, DP World Tour, trying to get his ranking points. He's now, by the way, back into the top 20 for the first time, and I forget how many years, but he's back in the top 20 of world golf rankings because he won the Dubai Desert Classic. He finished second at the Bahrain Championship. I'm butchering that, I know that. And he won the Qatar Masters last week. So for me, it's kind of this signal that ever since he put it in his mind and made it public that I'm going to come back to what we all know is the greatest golf, league in the world, he's picked his game up because I think in his mind he knows I need to. And I think that's just proof. To me, that's proof. Maybe that's a stretch, but to me, it's proof that he switched his mindset and all of a sudden he's back on top playing amazing golf because the DP World Tour, all these events, DP World Tour events, not a joke as far as events go. Like, yes, PGA Tour is maybe a slight step above, but the DP World Tour is still world-class golf events. And for him to go out there and have those finishes 3 straight tournaments, he's ready to come back. I think he's proven that the PGA requires a separate mindset, and this is him getting himself ready for that. It might be a stretch, but that's how I feel. Maybe I'm just looking for another way to nail Liv down to the dust.
In fairness to Reed, though, I feel like him and Bryson are the only 2 guys that consistently showed up in majors since the split. Like, right. Reed has a really good record in the majors over the last few years. Like, in the biggest events
for people last year,
dude, he should have been on that Ryder Cup team. Don't even get me started with that crap. I mean, you got a guy who is very successful in Ryder Cup, something that we're terrible at, by the way. And because he's not the most popular guy or the most friendly guy or whatever, they don't want him. Like, who cares? Like, I just want to win some Ryder Cups. Like, put the dude back on there. He's an elite match play player. I mean, he won 2 national championships at Augusta State, people. So obviously he's very good at match play. But again, he's another guy I'm very excited to get back. And he is somebody that, Augusta, look out. Reed is somebody that outside of his win, he's also had some really good finishes. I think he's had either 1 or 2 runner-ups as well. And especially the years that it, plays really tough, he could easily win. And I think the year he won, he was like 16 under. So Reed's, tailor-made for Augusta, and he's still the best putter and short game player on the planet.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about what the chops that Reed has. For sure, and we'll kind of see what that looks like, what his timeline is coming back, because he's a character guy that the PGA Tour does need. Love or hate Patrick Reed, and he is one of those polarizing guys like a Sergio Garcia, like guys that there's one side of the fence or the other. He's a character guy that the PGA Tour does need, because they can't be all love and rainbows and everybody loves everybody and just, I don't really care who wins because I like all these guys. Like, that's no fun way to watch a tournament. That's not going to keep TVs turned on a Sunday afternoon down the stretch, no matter what names are up there. If that's the way the fans are going into it, where they're like, I'm fine if one of these 5 guys wins, like, that's less exciting. You want to really cheer against people. And that sounds cruel.
It's like wrestling,
Reed,
right?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you're getting booed or cheered. As long as you're getting a reaction, you're doing your job.
Exactly. So that's a Patrick Reed for me right there. 2 other quick tidbits of news. This actually just came out this evening in the last couple hours. Charlie Woods is verbally committed to Florida State as part of the 2027 recruiting class next year. So that's we'll see what that does for his projection going forward, his career. Not that there's any doubt that we'll be seeing him for a long time at this point. And then some people might not care. I care, but because I think it's fun. I don't know if you watched the TGL last night, but we finally had our first hole-in-one in competition play there. And coming from none other, Neil Shipley, the alternate filling in at the Bay Golf Club. I'm sorry, but that's like the perfect kind of guy that I want to have that moment on a stage like that, because his reaction was almost kid-like. He almost did like a little hop and a skip, and like he didn't know what to do with his body, and like that, I loved that. I loved that it was Neil Shipley coming in for the first time on TGL and getting that.
My boy Lucas Glover almost had a hole-in-one. I think it was either the week before or maybe it was 2 weeks before for the opening week. Like, really close. And I had no idea
like it went
until
over
they said nobody had a hole-in-one yet that, that occurred. And I'm not a huge fan. It's like one of those deals that, like, if it's on, I'll watch it, you know what I mean? But it's not something like I'm appointment viewing. I still think they're making a mistake by not, having the teams have both women from the LPGA Tour, men from the PGA Tour, and I think they could even get creative. Like, I don't care about seeing the match, right? Like, on a real golf course with Mark Wahlberg or whoever. But
I'm over that. That was fun for like the first year.
I think that would be fun, right? Like, I think that could be cool because they're more, it's just dudes like hanging out and chit chatting. Like, and I think that they should do more of that, where I really enjoyed, like, when Tiger played a couple of weeks ago and just all the needling and stuff you could hear them doing while they're over on the side, while the
They're making
guys are
fun of each
hitting.
other the whole time, and like you
That's what
hear
I'm
all
saying. Yeah, like that's what most people's rounds of golf are with their buddies, right? Like in reality, we're out there to hopefully play some good golf, but worst come to worst, we're gonna just talk a lot of crap about each other.
Well, and you mentioned the LPGA getting involved, which we did report that they coming in the fall they're going to have their inaugural season for the TGL.
Yeah, but I don't want a women's league. They need to like make it where it's man and women teams. I think that would be really cool.
And I think that is ultimately what is going to happen. Like I'm not saying that won't happen yet. I think what this is, it's kind of almost a test to see what type
of your toe.
Yeah, I think they're testing the market, what type of draw and viewership does just the women alone get, because if they're satisfied with the numbers that the women pull in as well, then they will keep it separate, because to them that's just a different revenue stream, and now they're not forcing these guys to play the start of the year and the end of the year. Like they're going to be able to spread it out, which is going to make it more attractive for some of these guys. But I do leave that open to where they either do a full season where they just combine the men's and women's, or they do some sort of mini series event, co-ed kind of thing. Like it will happen, because it's the perfect setup to bridge that gap to where that gender difference is kind of nullified when it comes to playing on a simulator in this setting.
Yeah.
So I'm down for it.
My favorite part about I want to go see one in person. I think it'd be a fun event to go to live.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that, the crowd is, messing with the guys. You can boo, cheer, whatever while they're hitting. Because it's a different environment. And I think we're going to see, whether people like it or not, the game moving more and more to where that becomes a very popular portion of the golf world, because it's so much cheaper. I mean, I know it's more expensive, obviously, to have the simulator and stuff, but I mean, it's gotten out of hand what memberships cost. I know my membership at my club has almost doubled in the last 5-6 years. As golf has gained popularity again, thanks to COVID, we've seen prices skyrocket, and I know that they're getting ready up in Atlanta to have one of the first real facilities where we're talking about 30 simulators. It's going to have a bar. It's going to be more of a social thing. It's going to be Top Golf, but without all the bells and whistles. It's actually an indoor golf club, basically.
Which golfers don't need the bells and whistles.
No, and I definitely don't need your $15 freaking hamburger or whatever, and $9 beers. It's
because when I see that, all I think about is how greasy you're making my hands when I'm going to grip my club. That's what we're thinking about. Leave that stuff at home. Let's do quickly recap what we saw at the Waste Management this weekend, because we had some fantastic golf, and we had a couple main stories here. Obviously, Chris Gotterup, like I said, coming in, winning his second event of the year, and in a playoff.
Already 5 of his last 6, and then the first hole in the playoff. Hello.
And I'll tell you, Matsuyama, up until that 18th hole, he was looking pretty steady and unbeatable, because he was making some long putts all day. His putter was on, which is when we know that's the one thing with Matsuyama, that when he goes south, it's usually because of the putter. But when that thing's on, he's 100% a top 5 golfer in the world. But he went south on 18. You can say the crowd.
In his defense,
you can
say the crowd was
You can say the crowd. You could say the airplane shadow. You can say anything that it was.
I mean, it's pretty dead. He took it back, and there was definitely. He had to get in the hole on 18 green, and then again in the playoff, the guy, I guess, dropped a chair. I don't know what the hell happened, but
they were saying that was an employee that did that too. Yeah.
So, funny story. I was at Augusta on the 16th. This was back in 2008, 2009, and Fred Couples getting ready to tee off. He takes it back, and my buddy does. He drops his beer. And it's loud, because how quiet is it at a golf tournament? Somebody
exactly, so you hear everything.
You could hear a pin drop. And Fred stopped his swing, turned around, and looked up at us, and I was just what do you mean,
that's
this guy?
Where you're
I threw him under the bus. I'm it really was you, bro. So don't look at me like that.
That's Fred Couples looking at you. You gotta you say it's not my fault. I want you to like me.
But I just Hideki, I hated it too, because Dude hit one fairway.
I
Like
know.
one fairway, and he had battled and kept it together all
Mm-hmm.
day. It was very impressive, but that stuff happens, right? Like I'm sure, everybody assumed it was over. And the reason I say that is Goddard, I think we saw all of like 45 minutes of his final round
Right.
because
Because
they
he
didn't
just
think
turned
he
it
had a
on.
chance of winning. And people were hating on him. I didn't think he had a chance to win. We all thought it was over with like
See, that
4
was the
holes
thing.
left.
And what I
And
hated
Goddard
was that
birdied 5 of the last 6. That happens, man.
on Sunday morning, I was actually looking at like guys I could bet to win that I could get good odds on, and I saw Goddard up there, and I was like Goddard's been playing so good. I'd love to be able to bet him right now. His odds are great, but I was like, he's so far down the leaderboard, and there's just so many guys in between him and the top that it's like I'm not sure. I didn't think he could do it. He proved me wrong, but it's fantastic golf is what it
How
took.
about Scotty ended up just
So
one shot out of a playoff, and man, there was a bunch of that was the worst 4 days I've ever seen from him with his wedges. Like his shots from 100 to 150 yards were not nearly up to the Scotty Scheffler standards. And then, I mean, let's be honest, he flat out laid the sod on 2 chips, which, again, I think that Scheffler's strength of his game is obviously the driver just being so straight. He's such an elite middle to long iron player, but his wedges are where it's at. Like whether it be chipping around the green or just, hitting like a full pitch and wedge, gap wedge, et cetera, into the greens. It's just, you can pretty much like lock it in on the approaches. It's going to be inside 10 feet. And on the pitches and chips, I mean, probably inside 3-4. And they let him down this week, especially again, when you think that he ended up only 1 shot out of a playoff and the dude shot 2 over the first round.
And that's what was, for me, like I've obviously the last couple of years watching Scotty Scheffler, it's been clear, like you said earlier on the show, he's on a different level. He's in his own stratosphere of golfers. He's approaching that Tiger was feeling. And honestly, on this past Sunday was the first time that I was willing to kind of admit that last statement. Because for me, I remember texting Bud when he chipped in on, I forget what hole it was. It was in the back nine. It was 12, 13, whatever it was. When he chipped in to get within like 2 or 3, whatever it was. And I texted Bud immediately. And I said, I'll tell you what, Scotty Scheffler lingering on the leaderboard and chipping in on the back 9 on a Sunday is terrifying, because it was the first time that I truly felt in my gut like I'm about to watch this guy, no matter what, show up and win this tournament. And where I started to really think, I think there's guys on this course right now that are watching that leaderboard and seeing his name creeping up, and it's starting to have an effect. Because that was the biggest thing with Tiger. He was so good for so long and so clutch. He was terrifying to the point when guys saw his name creeping up the leaderboard behind them, it had an effect on those guys' golf game. Like that was the magic of Tiger, the scariness of Tiger. Scotty,
well, usually not him coming from behind, but to your point, like he would have the lead all the time going into Sunday,
right.
And just him being there, guys would basically destroy themselves. Because if you watch, like most of his final rounds would be like a 70, 71, nothing spectacular. He hit a bunch of fairways and greens, not make any mistakes, and he just let the rest of the field implode, which they would.
But I think that's what we're going to start seeing out of Scotty, is what I'm getting at here, is because I think he's just, if he's lingering at all, people are going to starting to notice him, I think. And this proves it. Like you said, he finishes one back after having like his worst Thursday in a long time. It seemed highly unlikely.
His first over round par round in a non-major, I want to say in almost 2 years.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild, the streak he's had. So Scotty Scheffler
hasn't finished outside of 8th now in 17 straight events. Like, I don't know why everybody keeps saying he's finished inside the top 10, 17 straight events. Give my man his props. He's finished 8th or better in 17 straight events. When you're doing that good,
you got to go down to the number. I don't care about rounding up at that point. You go down to the number. And it makes sense as to why, like, his odds are like -2 something, I think, to finish in the top 10, if not even higher than that. So, like, that's the thing.
Scotty he's like -275 to top 5 right now.
Exactly. Like, so you're not making money on Scotty Scheffler, and we'll get to this week's tournament and DraftKings and the price and whatnot. Like, unfortunately, to make money on Scotty Scheffler at this point, he's got to win. It's literally, and even then, the odds you're paying for him to win isn't really that good. So, like, unfortunately, as fun as Scotty Scheffler is to watch from a betting perspective, from a daily fantasy perspective, it's hard to say he's worth it, which is a terrible sentence to say.
I think the
Scotty
DFS
Scheffler.
is worth it in cash games like I play because,
Sure, cash
again,
games,
the goal is and I just
you got to
think
have the winner.
that's death, taxes, and playing Scotty Scheffler in cash. Like, that's pretty much the way I roll right now.
He's not worth it, though.
They're doing a very good job, though, of making that difficult because they're pricing him at a range where, like, I think it was 2 weeks ago, if you played Scheffler, from just putting Scheffler in your lineup, you had $6,900 average to spend on the rest of your lineup. So, I mean, like, used to you could, have one guy 75, 8,000, and then most of them in that range. I mean, you literally could not go above 7K unless you're picking somebody, that's one of the cheapest players in the field.
Which I will say, this year so far, we've been lucky enough. Like I said, we've had some great golf to where you've actually kind of probably been able, if you pick the right guys, been able to get away. There's been some low price guys when it comes to DFS surging up the leaderboard and finishing very well. For reference, this week, Scotty Scheffler, $14,000. The next closest guy, Rory McIlroy, $11,500. So, like,
he was $4,000 more at the Phoenix Open last week. $4,000 more than Xander Schauffele, who was the second most expensive.
And it would probably be the same this week if it wasn't for Rory McIlroy being in the field and being able to get that extra $1,000 closer to him deservingly. So, with that said, let's get into this week. Let's get into some rankings. Let's get into some stats. Keith's favorite thing. He dreams about these golf stats every week, and he's gonna start to let you in on his little dreams week in and week out here. And what we got this week? We got Pebble Beach. We got the Pro-Am.
And like Spyglass. Don't forget we got Spyglass too.
I was just gonna say that. So it is a signature event. It's a 2-course event with Spyglass mixed in there as well. And because it's the first signature event of the year, these signature events now no cut events. So you get 4 straight days of all your guys in your DFS lineups, leaving the possibility of scoring and money making really endless possibilities. You can have a guy turn it on all of a sudden on Sunday, save your lineups. Anything can happen, so watch closely. Kind of the history of Pebble Beach here and Spyglass as a whole, but these 2 courses is going to be hit the fairway and the tiniest greens on tour. So you need to putt and you need to be accurate. Because, I should say, when I say you need to putt,
Spyglass, 5th smallest greens on tour. So literally, you have 2 of the 5 smallest greens on tour. Pebble the smallest, and Spyglass the 5th smallest. So scrambling, very important this week. And also, obviously, green and regulation, because if you hit a lot of greens, you're hitting it close. That's what I like about playing courses with small greens is, you play some of these courses like Brunswick Country Club used to be a prime example. If you hit 10 to 12 greens in regulation, you had at least 7-8 birdie putts, like inside 20 feet.
So that's why and you nailed a couple of my basically a couple of my key stats here this week. Scrambling percentage is up there. Strokes gained approach is obviously on there as well. Fairways 125 to 150 proximity, that's on there as well for me. Putting is still on there for me, even though like we're saying they're smaller greens, which is true. So you don't have to worry about having to hit long putts necessarily. But these greens are not easy. It doesn't mean they're easier. Obviously with being on the coast, there's a lot of pull as far as the angles and the slopes of these greens. So you got to be able to work your way around that. So putting is still in there for me. And then short game, because that kind of encompasses both kind of around the green and those wedge shots from under 100 yards. And then driving accuracy, like I said, you got to get into the fairway. So those are kind of the key stats that I've worked everything around, so the way I've done it so far this year is I've kind of talked about my pool of players, but then talked about my core players. So I'm going to start this week with my core players. I think with not talking alone this time and with talking with you, Keith, this time, that's going to be able to get us going into some different directions. So my core 6 players that I actually, for one of the very rare times, was able to put into one lineup altogether. So I do have one where I have all 6 of these guys. So the price just worked out. They tick these 5 of these guys are top 50 in every single one of these stats, or top 40, I think, in every single one of these stats for me this week. And then I have one guy on here that I'll start with right now that is just a horse for the course who's playing fantastic golf right now, really for the past year. So Justin Rose is where I'm going to start. He's probably going to be a high ownership. I'm willing to eat it in GPP right now because his price at 9,400 is just too good. He's playing too good. He's a horse for the course. All the reasons is where like I'm willing to eat that chalk because it's no secret to anybody right now that Justin Rose is playing fantastic golf, and he always plays good here. The other 5 guys I have going with him in this lineup, though, and with my core, is Denny McCarthy at 6,800, Sammy Valimaki at 6,400, Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler, quietly, I'm going to say it, is back. Like, I know there was a push for him.
Define back.
I will define back right here. Quickly, before I define back for Ricky Fowler, Russell Henley at 9,200 and Tommy Fleetwood at 10,200 to round out my core. But Ricky Fowler back. There was a push for him to make the Ryder Cup, to be one of those guys that are like a vibe guy. He was playing great golf last year down the stretch, but we need to see more, basically. But if you look at it, going back to last June, last time he missed a cut was at the Rocket Classic in June last year, end of June. Since then, he's made 8 straight cuts, with 7 of those being top 30, 6 of those being top 20, and 2 of those being top 10, including last week T18, the week before that T18, and then going back to the BMW last year at T7. But the man has been playing good golf. He obviously, because I said, BMW T7 and then jumping into January a few months later, T18, he kept himself fresh throughout the offseason for himself. Ricky Fowler's here. He's good at the stats I mentioned. He ranks out, let me see here, Ricky Fowler, 9th in scrambling. He's 30th in putting, 21st in driving accuracy. He's got enough to put it together here, and he's played this course a bunch of times. Ricky Fowler's back, and I still think he's going to be under. I don't have the ownership projections at this point. I am using, as you know, in the past, Fantasy National has been my stats go-to model builder. In the past, I still am aligned with Fantasy National, but they themselves have aligned with BetSperts Golf. So I'm getting used to their site. I do not have the ownership projections up yet on that site, or at least I don't know how to find them correctly yet. But I think Ricky Fowler is going to be underowned.
I don't hate that play. The trends that we need to know going in, and a lot of the stuff you kind of covered, but 3 of the last 5 winners ranked inside the top 10 in driving distance, which is surprising, right? Because
it's weird for this course.
The lowest driving average of any course on tour, 274, and that's Pebble, obviously not talking about Spyglass. The average is like 304. So you're talking about 30 yards less than the tour average drive. But again, 3 of the last 5 winners, top 10 in driving distance. So it still does matter. You talked about the putting, which is huge. You've got a course that 4 of the last 5 ranked top 10 in scrambling. So you've got to be able to get it up and down, got to be able to make putts, particularly the 4 to 8 feet, inside 10 feet, and 20 to 25 footers. In all 3 areas, they rank inside the top 10 courses on tour in difficulty. And then again, you're talking about the irons and just how important the approach is. 65% green and regulation percentage here. And again, last 5 winners all finished top 20 in strokes gained approach for the week. So I'm on par with you there. Some of the things that you need to just be aware of is I really leaned into, when you're talking about course and comp history, just the last 2 years, because up until 2024, when it became a signature event, remember there was 3 venues that they were using, not 2. The 3rd venue was actually the easiest of the 3. Ironically, unlike most of these courses that play multiple venues, the easier course, which is Pebble, is the one that they do 3 rounds on. Spyglass is actually harder. But this is a course that you really need good like wedge players, 150 yards, and within 44% of your approach shots this week are going to come from that distance. That is almost 12% higher than any other venue on course, again, for Pebble Beach. And then I think it's really important because both Spyglass and Pebble have this, feature that Pebble has the most bunkers of any golf course on tour, 116. Yep. And then Spyglass has these massive deep bunkers surrounding their greens. So I looked at sand save percentage this week and actually leaned to that, which I normally never do. But I'm like, I think it's going to, play a factor. For like the DFS guys this week, I'm with you with Justin Rose, 110%. Just a great play. The guys that I really like, because I'm going to play Scheffler probably in a majority of lineups. Okay. If you're going to go in the 9K range, I think it's Siwoo again. I know the putting let us down again last week, but this is just a venue that you just can ball strike it to death. His metrics and the ball striking is just out of this world right now. My favorite play this week in the 8K range by far, Daniel Berger, 8K. I don't think enough people are talking about this guy. He has an unbelievable history here. Has not played here since 2021, but hey, when he did, he won it. That helps. Finished third the year before, and he just has one of those games that is like tailor-made for this venue. I mean, Berger, he's right now 13th on strokes gained approach, top 20 in total driving, 7th in green and regulation percentage. And then what I love is he's able to scramble and, avoid bogeys. 29th in scrambling, 8th in bogey avoidance, playing both par fours and par fives very well. But Ryan Gerard is my favorite play, period, this week. 7,500. Again, what we were talking about, right? You got to be able to hit irons. You got to be able to avoid big numbers. I mean, come on. What do you want here? This dude is 17th in strokes gained approach and putting right now, 28th in total driving, 13th in scrambling, 9th in birdie or better percentage, 8th in bogey avoidance. It's rare that you see guys that are not only making a crap ton of birdies, but also not making any bogeys. That's huge. Yeah. He's top 10 in both par 4 and par 5 scoring. And then the big one for me, he's top 30 and approaches both from 125 to 150 and 50 to 125, which is huge. And then if you're looking for a dart, like somebody who I like, not only because their odds are ridiculous, like look at the top 5, top 10 odds, seriously, 22 to 1. Lucas Glover, who finished third here last year. Again, he is a robot ball striker. And this is going to be his first event this year. I get that. But last year, top 25, strokes gained approach. He was 14th in driving accuracy last year. But for me, it's really, again, nobody just about on the planet is better from that 150 yards. And within number last year, he was second on shots of a 125 to 150, 20th on shots from 50 to 125. And if his putter can get hot, which you never know with Glover, it's hit or miss, don't get me wrong, that's really good. And again, him and Bud Cauley, who is also 6,300 and is another guy that excels with the wedge game, that 150 and in. And typically for Bud, he's much better on courses that he doesn't have to hit driver, because he's going to get it in the fairway, which is a lot of times his issue. And when you don't hit it a long way and you miss fairways, that's a problem. And if you put both Cauley and Glover in a lineup with Scheffler, you still actually have salary to mess around with. And that's what I like about that core right there, is you can play those three, throw in a Gerard who's 7,500, and you can go a lot of different places to fill out the rest of your lineup.
Yeah, no, I like that. And you did hit on a couple of the other guys that are in my play. So the guys I gave you before were kind of my core. My player pool has some more. So, yeah, Ryan Gerard, 100% in my player pool this week. I do love him. Daniel Berger, also in my player pool. Some of the other guys also in my player pool that we haven't mentioned yet. Brian Campbell, for his price, I think he's a guy that I think could sneak into the top 40 kind of situation, type top 30.
Anytime it's a
6,000
course that's short and you rely on irons, like that's what he is. He's the guy
and he's
that just gonna overwhelm you.
$6,000. 6,000 salary on DK. You have a chance there. Harris English, I think, sets up well here. Matthew Fitzpatrick just playing well. Ryan Fox, another guy.
So you're big on Fitzpatrick. I've seen several people are big on Fitzpatrick. I don't know why I'm so hesitant.
I'm not necessarily. I wouldn't say I'm big on him, but he's one of those guys this week where, one, we see the Europeans, the English, play well at Pebble. Like they just have the wind comes into factor, all that jazz. Like they tend to do all right at this course. Fitzpatrick's playing good enough to where I think I want to at least sprinkle him. He's in my pool. That's why I'm sprinkling him in.
What about Lowry? Because that's where I kept circling back.
Lowry's
only 7,900. Feels like way underpriced.
So he was the next after Ben Griffin, who's also in my pool. Shane Lowry is also in my pool for that. Like, he's another guy that I think he steps up for a course like this. If the elements do come into play, he's not going to back down to that. I think it helps him, if anything. And then the last guy in my pool is also Sahith Theegala as well. Sahith Theegala,
starting to play good again.
Finally breaking into the top 10. Like he's finding that next gear, that next level for himself when it comes to these events. So I've been enjoying watching him play. I needed to have a little bit of him mixed in there as well. But maybe you might have convinced me to make at least one lineup where I pay the price for Scotty Scheffler with some of those cheaper options and just see what I can do, because
I think he's going to win this week. I really do. Like, he has never won at this venue. This is a venue tailor-made for him. Like, you're telling me that he's going to – because, again, if he hits his wedges like he did last week, maybe he doesn't get it done again. But nobody is better at hitting it close and hitting greens than Scotty freaking Scheffler, who, by the way, right now is hitting 81% of his greens in regulation.
It's insane.
He's third in sand save percentage. He's making the most birdies – birdie or better percentage. He's fourth in bogey avoidance. And oh, by the way, he's playing par fours, the best of anybody on tour, and par fives, the second best of anybody on tour. And then the putting, it was not a flash in the pan. He's 22nd right now in strokes gained putting. And that is a terrifying thought for the rest of the PGA Tour, because it's just like with Tiger, where if he drove the ball well, you might as well just all go home. Because that was his one weakness, was he struggled finding fairways, and depending on how penalizing that was, it could hurt him. Scheffler was just a flat stick. Like, and it used to be like, if Scotty shows up and putts well, you can just go home. Well, it's starting to happen where regularly he's putting well. And we've seen what's happened. Again, he has not finished outside of 8th in his last 17 events. So I think he's going to win. I think he has a monster year this season. And I think that he's going to look, Chris Gotterup, you think that you're going to be the only person with 2 wins on the PGA Tour thus far? I don't think so, Jack.
I do not doubt that at all. It's really hard to say Scotty's not going to win at this point. I 100% get you there. The one other note I want to say, just to play slightly devil's advocate before we end the show here, to your because I understand the last 3 years, the stat about the driving distance being like a key stat. Part of me is hesitant to throw that into my models, because it feels like that's more so a narrative of just the way the game has changed. Like, I think that to me, that the driving distance just as a whole has been prominent in winners in general.
I didn't use it in my model.
You know what I mean?
I just always look for trends, and it just was interesting to me because, again, it's literally the shortest average driving distance of any PGA Tour event, but yet 3 of the last 5 winners were top 10 in driver distance. And it's like,
it does sound weird. I get that. Yeah. So that's why, like, to me, that's more of like a state of the game kind of stat than necessarily a Pebble Beach straight stats. Okay. So you didn't actually, I thought you were saying you used it in your model, which to be honest, I
very rarely use driver statistics in my model. Strokes gained off the tee on certain venues I will, but I typically lean into, I mean, it's almost the same thing most weeks, is like, I want guys that can scramble. Again, depending on the scoring, the birdie or better. And then if it's a tougher venue, obviously I put a lot of emphasis on the bogey avoidance and, avoiding big numbers. But overall, it's like I want guys that hit a bunch of greens, and
Yep.
make a bunch of birdies for a venue like this, which this one is. And by the way, not the easiest driving course on Spyglass. So that is something
No.
that gets you. I think it's the third or fourth narrowest fairways on tour. So
Exactly.
that is the one place. Be careful with the driving accuracy. To your point, I know we're hitting a lot of less than driver on Pebble, but on Spyglass, which plays longer than its number, by the way, it can hurt people.
Yeah.
Luckily, no cut
And
though, so it doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah,
in
luckily no
reality.
cuts. So like you said, you could have someone turn it around in those last 2 days when they normally wouldn't have gotten that opportunity, and
Yep.
they'll get you some salvageable DFS points. But look, that is going to do it for us here on Divots and Pivots tonight. Good luck to you in your betting or whatever the hell you choose
In
to
your
do.
life,
It's
just
your
in general,
choice.
we
Your
wish
life
you
in
nothing but
general.
luck.
Exactly. All love from the show here. I'm Andrew LeDuc. This is Keith Fleming. This is Divots and Pivots, and we will see you next week, as every single week, on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We love you, and as always, stay classy.